To try to help them, the Ethical Journalism Network has come up with a 5-point test for hate speech, which allows journalists to think about certain aspects of the speech before they decide to publish or not to publish. The first issue that a journalist has to think about is, what is the status of the speaker? There's a big difference between an elected prime minister and an elected president saying something and just someone who's saying something in the street or in a very close private circumstance. Remember that just because something is outrageous when it's said by someone doesn't make it newsworthy. So journalists have to examine what is the status of the speaker. The second issue we have to look at is, what is the reach of the speech? There's a big difference between someone saying something to a private small meeting and someone saying something on the internet or through social networks, or a big public meeting in which the message is going to be spread far and wide. So journalists have to examine what is the reach of the speech and what damage could it do. The third issue is that journalists have to look at, what is the content of the speech? Is it deliberately and maliciously seeking to incite hatred? Is that the intention of the speaker? What is the intention of the speaker is an important issue. The fourth question is the actual content of the speech. What is the language that's being used? Very often, intemperate and robust language will be used, and it's easy to identify it. But sometimes hate speech is actually communicated by people who don't use intemperate language. Very often, they use coded signals to their followers to do certain things. And there have been many cases where that sort of what appears to be quiet, inoffensive language is in fact used to generate hatred and to incite others to violence. And the fifth point is that an editor and a journalist should always be aware of the social economic climate in which hate speech is being generated. Very often in that climate, whether or not, for example, a war is taking place, or there's a humanitarian emergency, or there's a big issue that's causing fearfulness and uncertainty in people, that actually people will be susceptible to manipulation, easy manipulation by populists and politicians who want to generate hatred. So these are the issues which are very important, which a journalist should look for. What is the status of the speaker? What is the reach of the speech? Is it deliberate? What is the actual content of the speech? And finally, of course, what is the context, social, economic and political context in which that speech is being made? You can find more about this on www.ethicaljournalismnetwork.org, where the 5-point test for hate speech is available in 20 different languages. We think it's very useful and very helpful for journalists to have access to these thoughts when they're making the crucial decisions to publish or not to publish potential hate speech.